Welcome to a new series on the channel. Robert Pollard has stepped down as general manager of the Los Angeles Angels after winning the 2039 World Series after 15 seasons as the GM in Anaheim. And he's taking on a new challenge. Here, GM of the former expansion team, Raleigh Oaks. Now, I say former expansion team, I guess they technically are an expansion team, but we're not taking over them in their first season of existence, obviously. It is multiple years into the Raleigh Oaks experience here. Let's take a look around what this team has been doing. I mean, you can see right here on the team history page, the past 3 seasons have not been great. A 73 and 89 year this season, 57 and 105 before that, and 62 and 100 the season before that. Their total MLB record is 605 and 1,015. They have a .373% winning percentage. That's not great. Here you have the full Raleigh Oaks history. They came into the league in 2030, immediately lost 117 games, then 91, then 105, then 116, then 100, then 93, then 99. So this past season in 2039 has been by far, or not by far, They were similar in their second season, I would say, but one of their better seasons, their best win total, I should say. Their best win total was 73, and that was this past season. So I guess you could say they're on the upswing, but things are definitely not looking great. So now if we take a look at some of the greatest Raleigh Oaks players that have played for this organization in their short existence, you can see their batting average career leader is Andres Rivera with a .279. Not exactly a guy who's, a great player, currently with the Montreal AAA team, the Revol Rocket. Some of these guys are still with the team here for batting average. Sergio Figueroa is apparently the current first baseman. We'll have to take a look at the staff here at some point, which we will do with staff, with scouts and stuff like that. But Figueroa is still with the team. Connor Sweetland is still with the team. He's in AAA. We'd love to see that they have a high contact, high gap power, high speed guy. Can't really play anywhere but first base, but definitely somebody I'm interested in. I'm not interested in the amount of money he's going to be making with this type of backstory or this type of production that he's been putting up. Eric Price is apparently their current shortstop. He is a 29-year-old who is... okay, so yeah, he has 2 years left on his contract. He is next year, and then the year after that at $8.2 million, which is probably like the highest paid guy on the roster, if I had to imagine, because if we take a quick little detour to go to our front office here, this team has the 32nd payroll in all of baseball. Not exactly a high paid team. The 26th budget in all of baseball, so this is definitely a different situation than we had in Los Angeles, that is for sure. And if we take a look at their salaries, their highest paid player this season was Ethan Salas, who is peppered all over their leaderboards, I'd imagine, throughout their franchise, because he has been here for quite a while. But we will not have Ethan Salas on our team. He's no longer good anyways. He's fallen off a cliff. For a long time, he was the gold standard for a defensive catcher. As we've talked about in this universe a lot, we take a look at his career fielding stats, and you can see catcher framing runs here constantly in the 2 digits, 11.7, 14.9, 15.0. I mean, he was basically leading the league every single season from like 2028 all the way up to 2035, essentially. I think 2035 he was maybe like second or third, but for a long, long time, Ethan Salas was the guy to be all over the catching framing runs. And I'm also seeing that he got hurt. Or no, this is 2026. So he played 1 game of first base here. So yeah, even like these years, he was really good. So basically his entire career, except for these past 3 seasons, where he's obviously old now and has fallen off a cliff, and it has just never been a good hitter. So his value is pretty much entirely gone. But aside from Salas, Eric Price is indeed the highest paid player on this roster. We'll get a little bit into the actual state of the roster once we take a look at some of this leaderboard stuff. Their career on base percentage leader is also Andres Rivera, and then Figueroa, and then Sweetland. Same guys for batting average. Their slugging percentage is also the same 3 guys, but just flipped in order. Their OPS career leader Same three guys, Figueroa, Rivera, and Sweetland. Best single-season OPS in Raleigh Oaks history has been Marco Luciano, who I guess came over and played 2 seasons after having a long career with the San Francisco Giants, came over and played 2032 and 2033, and he was really good. He was really good for this Raleigh Oaks team. Obviously did not lead to being a playoff team, but he had some really good seasons here in Raleigh. I guess we should be focusing more on the single season stuff, because these career leaderboards are not going to be very impressive at any point. Like, you can take a look at this WAR single season list, and just already you can see multiple 2039s on here. Jared Hartley, who is their third baseman, he's on this list with a 4 WAR. That's the third best WAR in history for the Raleigh Oaks. You also have the 2039 Nelson Rada, who they traded at the deadline to the Milwaukee Brewers as a wrecked player, former Los Angeles Angel. Put up a decent season for them, barely played for Milwaukee. Was it because he got hurt? He did indeed. They traded him, and then he had recurring back spasms, because that's what happens when you play a wrecked player. You also have Nesty Rojas on here, a corner outfielder. Very good name, younger player as well. That's definitely somebody who is we're gonna be using this guy, Nesty Rojas. He's a younger player, lefty hitter. Like I said, we'll get into the roster in a little bit here. We've also got Edgar Ortega on here, who looks to be their second baseman. This guy is legit. This guy looks serious. Very excited to have this guy, and then also Nesty Rojas on the team. And then, of course, like I expected, their career WAR leader is Ethan Salas with 11.6 in his Raleigh Oaks career. And then Luciano, who was only here for 2 seasons, is top 3. That really shows you that this team, not a very deep history. Obviously, they've only been around for a few seasons, but still, not a lot of impressive bats going around here in Raleigh's history. Their career home runs leader is Eric Price with 94. He is their current shortstop, who has 50 grade power, and I guess he hit 32 home runs in 2035, but aside from that season, really has not been any sort of power threat whatsoever. And then look at this, Ethan Salas is even their stolen base leader with 101. And then on the pitching side of things, their definite 2 best pitchers in Raleigh Oaks history are Steve Archer and Wilson Morales. You can see they have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 for single season ERA, and then they have 1 and 2 for career ERA. Steve Archer currently with the Philadelphia Phillies after spending most of his career here with Raleigh. Take a look at his career stats. So I guess they traded him to Philly this offseason, or this trade deadline. Started his career here, was a solid starter. Nothing really too crazy, but a solid enough starter. He is their number 1 in their history. Wilson Morales, he is currently still with the team, so that is good to know that we still have this guy around. The most wins any pitcher has gotten in their career, not that I care about wins, but it is just stark to see that the most wins is 11, with another guy having 10, Keter Montero. He was with the Angels for a little tiny bit in 2035. He was only with Raleigh for 3 seasons. I guess 2 seasons, really. He only pitched 1 game in 2033. Their career saves leader is Tyler Baird, who is just like a nobody at this point, currently in free agency. I'd imagine he probably bounced around a lot. Yeah, was here with Raleigh their first 2 seasons, then went to Detroit, then came back to Raleigh, then was in Chicago, then New York, then Pittsburgh, then in Oakland for like 2 short stints, and now he's just kind of hanging around in free agency. Nobody's wanting to sign him because he's not really great. But he is the career saves leader here. And number 2, who also has the number 1 season, is Wilson Montiel. He is currently on this roster, looking like definitely a solid reliever who they claimed off waivers from the Colorado Rockies in 2038, very early season 2038. Their pitching WAR leader is Wilson Morales, the 24-year-old who is currently still on the team. I mean, that just shows you all you need to really know is that this guy puts up 3 seasons like this, and he's the career WAR leader for the Raleigh Oaks. The man who has pitched the most innings of all time here in Raleigh is Bobby Connor, who is also in Philly, just like the number 2 man is Steve Archer. Wilson Morales is already number 3 on this list. So Bobby Connor is just a reliever for Philly, it looks like. Or actually looks like they just recently signed him, and he hasn't even pitched for Philly yet. He was in AAA for them. We take a look at his big league stats here. A lot of years with Raleigh, just being a kind of an innings eater for them, not really doing too well. Then went to Chicago for a little bit, I guess, at the deadline. And then the other Chicago team, he went to the South Side. And then he went to St. Louis. And then I guess St. Louis let him go. And now he's in Philadelphia. Bobby Connor is also the career strikeouts leader for this organization. These are going to be peppered with many, many more of our players once we get done here in Raleigh, because we're trying to turn this team into an actual powerhouse here. Now, before we actually get into the current state of the roster, let's take a look at the current state of the Raleigh Oaks staff. So as you can see, we currently have 2 vacancies. That's an assistant GM who was let go. Once we took over the job, you can see here we got a bunch of alerts. Obviously, we were not able to do anything about this because we were not a part of this organization up until a couple days ago, so we did not have the option to re-sign any of these guys or whatnot. So we need to hire a new assistant GM, and we need to hire a new pitching coach. I did take a look at the previous pitching coach. He was awful anyways. We can just look at that really quick right here. Pitching coach Anthony Alicki. He had good pitching, good teach pitching, but he had nothing else that was really any good except for aging. We can do better than that. So I'm not exactly pissed that he's no longer a part of this team. One thing I will mention is that the hitting coach actually has pretty good ratings here. He's got outstanding development, outstanding aging. Now, the mechanics is not great, but with this outstanding development and aging, with the teach hitting good, we're definitely going to be keeping this guy around for at least a couple more seasons. He's had a long career, was with, I believe this is an indie ball team, and then he was with San Diego from 2030 to 2035, had a layoff for a few seasons, and now 2039 was his first season here. So he's only been here for 1 year. We're definitely going to be keeping him around for at least the length of his contract. As far as these base coaches go, the first base coach, Brad Elwood, he's got some decent teaching stats, so probably not worth firing him. He only has a couple years left in his deal anyway, so we'll probably keep him around. The third base coach, this guy sucks. This guy is going to get out of here. He's been here literally since the first season of the Raleigh Oaks. There's no reason why this guy should be here. The new regime's coming in and saying bye-bye. We need a new third base coach, so Daniel Barbosa, we'll see you. And then here's really where we're going to have to make some changes. The team trainer, not the worst ratings. How many years does he have? He has... Probably don't want to keep this guy until 2042, so I think we're going to get rid of this guy. These ratings aren't the worst, but we could definitely improve upon these. So we're going to fire the team trainer. And then the scouting director is absolutely going to be fired. He's been here for 4 seasons. As you can see, he highly favors tools, which I do like. I like this. This is all awful. Your best thing is average minor league scouting. I mean, no wonder why this team has not done anything. They've had this guy given them their prospects. This guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And then there are a bunch of vacancies throughout the minor leagues as well, but we'll obviously look through all that. I guess we should look to see if any of these pitching coaches are just good enough to be promoted. This guy, absolutely not. Only good. Not really any good development or anything. Nunez here? No. We could definitely do better than that. So this is an obvious one. We're here looking at scouts. Chrissy Christopher from Glendale, California. Outstanding majors, legendary minors, legendary international, outstanding amateurs. He favors tools. This is absolutely our guy. We're offering him the scouting job. So there are quite a few very good options here for pitching coach. We've got a high reputation guy here. Don't really care too much about reputation. We care about if they can teach pitching, if they've got good development mechanics, and deal with veterans, handle aging. And then relationships is also important too, but if a guy like this guy has good relations, as opposed to average with these guys, he's got good pitching, but this stuff is kind of mediocre. So I would prefer to have one of these guys as opposed to this guy, even though he does have that good relationships. Now, I will say, this guy, or not this guy here, Justin Ramsey, he's been a journeyman pitching coach here throughout the minor leagues. He has excellent pitching, and then he has good development and mechanics, and then average aging. So it's not obviously in the blue, but that is pretty solid. So he has really good relationships. Uh, I think we might lean him right now, simply because he has those good relationships and we want to see him use those. So Justin Ramsey, we're going to offer him the pitching coach job. As far as the trainer, this is definitely a bit trickier. You really got to like pick and choose what you want here. So like I like this guy somewhat because he has really good rehab on a lot of this stuff. He has good prevent arms, average prevent back, really good fatigue recovery, but his prevent legs is poor, which I do not like whatsoever. If we sort by prevent arms, which is probably the most important thing for me, none of these guys really stand out to me as like somebody who is that great. Like, I guess maybe this guy, Caleb Bennett, but I don't know. I used to just only sell out for guys who had really good prevention, but I think nowadays I'm starting to lean towards guys that have like a good mix of both and are more of a balanced training focus because even when you have guys who have like outstanding prevent arms, like you're gonna have arm injuries. So like I'd rather just have a guy who, is gonna have decent both, or even just maybe even better both and decent prevent. Or not better rehab, decent prevent, because like if guys are gonna get hurt anyways, no matter what my prevention is, we would at least want to have them get some sort of help to their rehab recovery. So like somebody like this guy, for example, is really stand out to me. Even though like he has the legendary here, but he's got poor at prevention for two of the most important ones, and then back's really important too. So like I don't think we would want to go with him, but maybe this guy. Maybe this guy is somebody we're looking at here. Prevent other is poor, which is not ideal, but I think we like this. We like the outstanding rehab arms and back with average over the legs, and we like the prevent legs, prevent arms being good, and the prevent back being excellent. So the prevent other is poor. I don't really know what other is classified as in this game, but I think we're gonna roll the dice with Chase Arvey here for at least a few seasons and see how he does. And then before we go out and hire a third base coach, I'm looking at what our current staff has. Our bench coach actually has a bunch of really good teaching attributes. He is excellent in teach infield, outfield, and running, and then only good for catching. So basically, and then our first base coach, he has excellent for catching and excellent for outfield. So we could really just upgrade on anything we want. Like if there's a guy out there who has outstanding and a bunch of stuff, we could hire him. Like boom, this guy's standing out to me already. Randolph Curandongo, incredible name, outstanding at teaching infield and outfield defense, and then he also has excellent in-game running. This is definitely our guy. He is our third base coach. That is the ideal third base coach. All right, so we sent out a bunch of minor league offers, and I also forgot to mention that our manager is somebody who is signed through 2041, so he'll be around for at least 2 more seasons, I'm thinking, because he only has fair reputation, so he's not really close to locking me out on a ton of stuff, and he has quite moldable stuff. I don't like that he has yellow aggressive running. Pinch hitting, I don't really care about. This is fine, like what it is. Maybe I'd tick it up a little bit. Outfield shifts is fine. We usually like force strategy our pitchers anyways. But the rest of this stuff is fine. It's a bunch of green. He doesn't want anything to do with the hiring, so we can just keep him around. He's only been here for 3 years. We'll see how he is at the end of his contract. But Danny Lopez, former Mariners manager, is going to stick around for at least a couple seasons. All right, so we just used some of our total money available here because obviously we have a very small budget. So even though we have we have a ton of money to spend, we're obviously not going to be a huge spender in free agency all the time. Like we're going to be trying to build through the organization here, through the draft, through international free agents, stuff like that, through trades. Being a smart, small budget team is essentially what we're going to be trying to do. Win on the margins. So we have cranked a ton into our player dev here. This was only at like 19, and we bumped it up to 35. This was at like 25. I put it down to 15. I've never really needed more than that, but I might give it a little bit more. This I'm just putting at the cap, and then the scouting. We have 20 million right now. I might bump this up a little bit. Oh, and then we also have to change these. If you're wondering what I do with these, I usually put the minors and majors on 10%, and then we put the others on 40. The theory behind that is that it's pretty easy to scout guys who are in your organization in the league already. You can just look at their stats. You don't need their ratings to be like exact. Whereas amateur and international scouting, it's all about the ratings. So like you need to know what those ratings are. So you want the amateur and the international cranked up as much as possible. And then these you can kind of float by on 10%. So I do 10 for both of these and then 40 for both of these. And that's just what I've been rocking for basically many years now. Honestly, with 86 million, I might even just put more into this. Like, we might just put this at 25, to be honest. Just to get a nice even number, we'll go 25 on that. And then for player dev, might even go 40 on this, to be honest. Might even go 40 on that. So yeah, that still only knocks us down to 76.6 for total money, and then 60.6 for money for extensions. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be rocking with here, at least for now. Now, we do currently have no scout, so we're not going to be able to get real true ratings on a lot of our guys here that we look at. But just as a quick little roundup for how this team did this past season, 73 and 89, as we know. We take a look at the standings. Hey, look who won the World Series. I wonder who did that. If we take a look at the standings here, they were second to last in the Southern Division. Only the Tampa Bay Rays were below them. Minus 32 run differential. That is, I'd imagine that's probably one of their better run differentials they've had in their history. So, you know, there are some pieces that we have on this team, I think. I mean, they've picked high in the draft plenty of times, but they do kind of get shafted a lot of the times, at least what I've noticed. They usually have, like, this first or second best odds a lot of years, and they end up picking around 8th or 9th a lot of the time, getting real screwed over in the lottery all the time. Another thing I should mention is that this current logo is possibly subject to change. This is something I literally threw together in, like, 5 minutes in Photoshop when I put the Raleigh Oaks into the league. You can see here it's pretty small. Like if we take a look at like Houston, well, I guess it's about the same size. Maybe not then. But I think we are going to possibly look to update this. I'm not exactly the best in Photoshop, but I can put together something that looks a little bit better than this, put a little bit more effort into it aside from just having a circle with 2 strokes around it, and then write Raleigh Oaks with a tree over it. I think we can do something a little bit better than that. So probably for this first season, or maybe first 1 or 2 seasons, however long it takes me to figure out a new logo, but I think we will be transitioning to a new logo. I love the color scheme, though. I should also show you guys the uniforms here. I think I did a decent job with the unis. You can see cream unis, green piping, red undershirts, and then on the road, it's gray with the same color scheme, but then I gave them Sunday alternates where I forced them to have stirrups, and it's now pinstripe creams, which I think is a pretty nice touch. And then another thing that I should do before we actually look at the roster here is take a look at our ballpark factors, because we have been in Anaheim for so long that we have not actually seen what Raleigh's ballpark is like. And I wasn't really expecting anything too drastic. Nothing really drastic is here. They're like slightly, ever so slightly, a little bit more geared towards average, a little bit geared towards right-handed pitching, but like a very minuscule amount. And then doubles, not a great doubles park, it seems like. And then all this stuff is just completely even, just exactly 1.000. Whereas when we were in Anaheim, if we look at theirs, we can go to their info page here. You can see their home runs overall cranked up quite a bit. So we got a little bit of a reverse for the overall but you can see here definitely a bit more inside 1,000 for the Angels here with the average, and then the doubles. We even have a bit more doubles than the Angels have in their park, so that is good to see. The gap power might play a little bit more for us, but then the home runs going to be a tick down for us, as it's exactly 1,000 in Raleigh, which is good to see. You know, fly ball pitchers might be a little bit more viable here. It's a pretty average, I mean, pretty much exactly like league average home runs overall. It doesn't really sway one way or the other. But I'm definitely excited to have a little bit of a different ballpark here in Raleigh. But now, finally taking a look at this team stats. As we know, they finished 7th in their division, 73 and 89. Basically, a little bit worse than their Pythagorean. They were projected to finish 78 and 84, but still not exactly a great team. Was not good at home, was not good on the road, was awful in one-run games. They played a ton of one-run games, and they were not good in those. And then there really aren't too many numbers standing out to me with the bats here. I mean, this is just dreadful. Their bats were god-awful. And I'd imagine that the bats are probably going to be the last thing to come for us, as I've talked about a lot, especially when I take over a small market team in OOTP. I love to hang my hat on pitching and defense. So we're going to be really developing pitching and defense here, and we're going to be trying to get the Raleigh Oaks into being one of the best staffs in baseball, and then the hitting will come afterwards. So if I had to guess what the Raleigh Oaks first playoff team is going to look like, I'd imagine it's probably like a top 3 staff in baseball, and then like a very mediocre, barely good enough offense to get you into the playoffs, if I had to guess. But we're definitely going to be focusing on pitching and defense first, and the hitting has a long way to go, as you can see by this team stat rankings here. Where on the pitching side of things, there are some interesting numbers here. They were 4th in defense. That is good to see. Solid defensive team. 6th in overall ERA. That's workable. The staff ERA, the starters, not great. This needs to improve. This, however, bullpen ERA, I mean, I'm already pretty solid at developing a bullpen, and if we're starting with a bullpen that was like this, that's pretty damn good. And then 5th in runs allowed. I mean, they're already on their way to having a good staff here, and if we can just keep the pieces in place or just keep that progress going towards being even a better staff, you know, one thing will be in place, and then we'll just be on our way to hopefully improving the hitting as we go along. This, however, the strikeouts number, that definitely needs to improve. You know, we don't need to be a staff that, like, blows away teams, but we would like to improve a little bit on 11th for strikeouts. But taking a look at this current pitching staff, we're not going to highlight every single player. We'll learn the team as we develop this team. But as far as some of the highlight guys that I'm seeing here, Wilson Morales, we know a little bit about. He is peppered all over the league, the career franchise leaders. He was a first-round pick, 7th overall in 2034 out of a Arizona high school. Right-handed pitcher. He is projected to enter his first year of arbitration at 4.4. Possibly a guy we might look to re-sign to like a long-term team-friendly deal and keep him around as like a key piece in this team. We don't like that he has 45 control. Maybe this changes once we take a look at a head scout. I mean, OSA thinks he has 50 potential. Maybe if we take a head scout, he has a bit better. We will have to see once we actually do hire that head scout, but we don't like that he has 45 control. And he hasn't really ever had a walk problem, so maybe that is something where the rating that we saw here for head scout was basically wrong. But you know, performance, he hasn't really had too much of a walk issue. Hopefully he can continue to be a solid pitcher for us. Dave Havens with a bit of a weird year for them. He is a 24-year-old former third-round pick out of not really sure where that high school is. Out of St. Mary's, PA, born in New York, another right-hander. He is still on a league minimum deal, and he had a really weird year where he had a good WAR, but an awful WAR because he got really, really unlucky with the BABIP, a 343 BABIP, a 73 ERA+, but the FIP minus, that is above league average, so definitely something that could improve with a better defense behind him, although we saw that they don't have a bad defense, so he just got really, really unlucky. I'm also just seeing a couple names that stand out to me here. Well, we know about Montiel. He is their closer. Hoodoo, not Voodoo, Hoodoo, the left-hander, claimed from Colorado Rockies off waivers. He's obviously going to be a part of this team. He is still making league minimum, not even arbitration eligible yet, so obviously he's going to be a part of this roster. And then just some other names that stand out as, like, cool names. Like, we got a Korean guy here, 25-year-old. He is also not yet arbitration eligible, so that's obviously something we love to see. He's got some really good personality here with a leader, loyalty, adaptability, work ethic, low financial ambition. Doesn't throw hard, but he's got some effective ratings here. 25 years old. And then we also got a Dutch guy, left-hander Nies van Esveld. Just a stupid language, if we're being honest here. Left-hander, 27 years old, out of the Netherlands. He was a he was a draft pick. Okay, so I guess he's from the Netherlands, but he must have grew up in America. He went to a high school in, or Beaufort. That is a high school, yeah. So a high school in South Carolina. He was a third-round pick by the Blue Jays. Then got traded to the Twins. And then Raleigh claimed him off waivers this past season. So this is his first year with Raleigh. Definitely interested to see what this guy can do for us. Ground ball pitcher, we like that. Seems like he has decent enough ratings. Oh, and he also, well, he is arbitration eligible this season, his first year, but he is a very, very cheap arbitration. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Josh Littleton here was in the history for the Dutchman. Yes, they were traded for each other in 2035 between the Blue Jays and the Twins, and now they are on a roster together. So then on the hitting side of things, by far their best hitter was Jared Hartley, 25 years old. He is not yet arbitration eligible, out of St. Peter's Prep in Jersey City. I obviously know where that is. He looks like he plays decent second and third base. He played a combination of second and third base. Looks like he was much better as a third baseman, so that's probably where we're going to play him. Fan favorite personality class, has some good hitting ratings. Definitely interested to see what this guy can do for us. Nesty Rojas, great name, left fielder, another left-handed bat, former third-round pick for them. How did they get Hartley? They got him in a trade with Houston. He was a Houston draft pick, and then Houston traded him along with this guy who is now no longer with the organization, and of course it sends me back here. And then they traded Jimmy Hunter for him, who is now with Miami and hurt. And apparently this guy has ruptured his MCL at some point in his career, recently here in 2038. So I guess that's probably why he did not play too much in 2038. But he bounced back with a very good season here, so Jared Hartley, very excited for him. Nesty Rojas, the left fielder, third-round pick. His first year in the big leagues this year, didn't play a full season, but he did get 277 plate appearances and tore things up with a 142 WRC+. He's got some good hitting ratings, really good speed profile, really good corner outfielder. Very excited about him. Edgar Ortega, this guy is the future of the franchise. Huge BABIP, huge gap, huge eye, really good speed, really solid second baseman, it looks like, yes. So Hartley and then this guy at second base, you've got yourself a really good defender at both those positions. Very excited to see what Edgar Ortega can do for us. Spooky Ortega, great nickname. It looks like Eric Price, who is peppered all over their career leaderboards, is no longer the starter. He had a really bad season this year. Can barely hang on at shortstop as a positive ZR. But he's definitely a bench player at this point in his career, which is tough because he's projected to make $8 million for the next 2 seasons. That's brutal. Right now, their starting shortstop is Deval Esprit, who also isn't really the greatest defender at shortstop. That's somebody I don't really... Not thrilled about having that guy. He's also going to be an auto-renew this year at $3.4 million. He might be somebody we try to flip and get a better shortstop, so not really intrigued by him. Sergio Figueroa was on their leaderboards. He's like whatever. 2.6, probably somebody we might look to flip at some point, honestly. We've talked about Ethan Salas. We know about him and what he's done his whole career, but he's an expiring free agent, so we will not be having him on the team next year. And then there's really nothing. Oh, there's this guy. 60 potential here. Yeah, okay. Okay. This guy's got 80 grade power potential, 70 grade gap power. He's already got 65 and 70 respectively. He's going to strike out a ton. He's a flawed player. Doesn't look like he's going to be a great defender anywhere. Can play you like an okay left field. He's probably like a DH type for us. Let's just make him a left fielder right now because what am I doing? Set position, left fielder. Yeah, so he's a left fielder. Is he actually? Oh no, it's better in left. So yeah, he should be a left fielder. He might be our DH this season because this power is insane. This team needs power. This guy is young. Very, very excited about Luis Bagliolo. Yeah, Bagliolo. Midnight Bagliolo. And then just taking a quick look at the player development system right now, they have the 7th minor league system out of 32 in baseball. We saw what we have these set into right now. You can see they have the number 9 overall prospect, Tariq Bin Abdud, a right-handed pitcher who they took 2nd overall in 2038. I think we saw this guy get taken. I remember seeing this guy get taken. We definitely showed that. Then 32nd, they've got Luis Griego, a Venezuelan outfielder. 70 range. Looks like he's pretty solid, coming off a really good year with the Honolulu Islanders. Juan Trujillo is a right-handed pitcher. 54th overall in baseball as a 12th round pick. They've developed this guy to be a 54th best prospect in baseball, coming off a solid season in split between rookie ball and A ball for this organization. Then they've got a second baseman in Juan Ramirez. He was an international free agent signing in 2034. Definitely a first baseman. We'll just go ahead and make him a first baseman right now because he's not a second baseman. 65 power potential. This guy looks like he has a similar profile to Carranza, who we just traded for with the Angels before stepping down from that job. World Series champion Carranza, also a switch hitter like Carranza. And this guy looks like he had a really good season. 6 WAR, 218 WRC plus, and 25 doubles, 27 home runs with the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders. Last year he was in Honolulu with just a comical season. 254 WRC plus, 11 WAR, 51 doubles, 36 home runs. He walked 22% of the time as opposed to striking out 10% of the time. He had a 1306 OPS. Why is this guy not in the major leagues? Tonko? He's not Tonka. He's not Tonka Truck. He's Tonko. And then those are it for the top 100 prospects they have. They've got a couple of guys in the top 200 here listed as well. But like I said, we're not going to spend a ton of time going through every single player in the organization. What I will mention, though, is that these are our minor league affiliates. We have the Spartanburg Bulldogs is our AAA affiliate, and very excited to have a team that's not in the Pacific Coast League, so we don't have to constantly avoid sending our pitchers to AAA. We can just send them to AAA. Because the Spartanburg Bulldogs are our AAA team here in the West Division of the the International League. And then we brought back the Trenton Thunder into organized ball here. They are our AA team, the Trenton Thunder. Everybody knows about the Trenton Thunder. They are in the Eastern League, in the Southwest Division, just because that's where it placed this team's affiliate. I didn't really spend too much time looking at the divisions and whatnot. It's just, they were in AA. I wanted to put a team like Trenton back in the league, so Trenton's in the league. And I added all these teams when we added Raleigh into the save. I didn't just do this before taking it's not like I just renamed all these affiliates. These affiliates have been here the whole time. One thing I probably will do is put the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders logo into the game, because this is a real team. This is a Northwest League team. They're a summer ball team. Summer ball Wooden Bat College League. Incredible name. They're in the Midwest League. How could you pass up a team like the Fond du Lac Dock Spiders in the Midwest League? And then our low A ball team is the Honolulu Islanders in the California League, I believe. Yes, the California League. They're in the Northern Division, whatever. But this is our AA team. We might edit the logo. We might keep it the way it is. And then the Raleigh Saplings is our rookie ball team. It looks like we just have one rookie ball. Do we not have like a... So we just have one rookie ball team. We don't have... How do they not have a... Okay. So they just have one rookie ball team with all of their rookies on it, and they don't have a Dominican League team. I think we should probably remedy that. Alright, so I've gone ahead and added a DSL team to the organization. The Raleigh Acorns are the DSL team, and then our other rookie ball team is in the Arizona Complex League. They are the Raleigh Saplings. Alright, so just taking a look at this Raleigh Oaks arbitration page. Obviously, we don't have a scout right now, so we can't see like what our scout thinks of these guys, but we can see some of these guys and decide whether they're worth arbitration. Like this guy, absolutely not worth arbitration. I mean, look at his ratings. He's 29. He's projected to make $2.4 million in arbitration this season. There's no reason why we should be giving him $2.4 million. So he is not going to get that. He's going to be non-tendered. Guys like that, we'll be making easy decisions on. Littleton, he's projected to make 1.3. Maybe Langfoot, he could probably stay around. Bolter, he can probably stay around. We want this guy around. We want Morales. We want Machado. Jeff Thurston. I mean, he's got some decent catching ratings. We'll have to look a little bit more into the catching. I'm going to wait to make a decision on him. Sergio Figueroa, 2.6. Maybe we'll think more about that. Sweetland, we probably do want around, but 3.4 is expensive. We'll have to, once we see what our scout thinks of these guys and we do a little bit more seeing of like what planning out the team is going to look like, we'll make a decision on Sweetland. Castellin, we like his corner outfield defense. I don't like this bat whatsoever. He's also not flexible, and he's projected to make 1.5. Or no, he's projected to make 2.6, but the team is offering 1.5. Yeah. I don't think that's going to go. So Castellin, I don't think we're going to bring back. Even though he has a great name, I just don't think that's worth it. Reinhold Wilken, they have a German outfielder. I think he's worth bringing back entirely just for the name, and he also has a decent bat. So, German outfielder, Boomerang, Reinhold Wilken. I think we're gonna keep around. He's got that adaptability as well. We don't have any pending guys who we can give a QO to. And then these are all the guys that were free agents without compensation. Apparently we had Dylan Cruz this year, who obviously was very hurt because he's wrecked. We're not bringing him back, obviously. Daniel Dickinson's 35. That's definitely not a part of our plans. And then we'll take a look at these minor league guys just off camera. There's a lot of them to look at. We'll probably do that once we get a scout hired. But what we don't need to do, or what we can't wait for to have a scout hire, is the development lab. So I'm going to go through here and add 8 guys, and then check back in. Alrighty, we have selected our 8 players here for the dev lab. The first one, Wilson Morales, our ace, essentially. We are going to be trying to improve his control. I don't know if he actually does have control that can be improved, but OSA thinks he does. If it's 45 control, we would like that to not be 45 control, so we're going to try to tap into that. He also has high adaptability, so that's probably going to play in our favor. The Korean reliever, Hung Chol Kwan, he is going to add a pitch to his arsenal. We're going to attempt to. He has a really good personality class. He's got the adaptability and he has the work ethic. So we're going to see if we can add a 3rd pitch to this mix. And then if he does, maybe next season we can add some stamina. And then, you know, we really get this guy cooking. But we're at first, both of those are very, very hard programs. So, you know, my hopes are not high, but this guy has a really good adaptability work ethic to go along with it, so I think it's going to have a higher chance of succeeding for him than it would most players. And then our German corner outfielder, Boomerang. He has high adaptability. We are going to try to improve this gap power, make that a bit better. 40 gap is just not good. He has some good speed. He's got good other ratings. If we can get a big boost to this gap power, suddenly he's way more interesting as a player. Edgar Spooky Ortega. We are trying to improve his avoid K. His gap, his eye, his BABIP, his contact, his power is already looking pretty solid. If we can get this avoid K up, That's looking pretty damn good. He already doesn't really strike out much, but if we can make this even better, that'd be fantastic. Then we have Chris Daddy Duhan, who is one of our top prospects, 55 potential guy. He is ready. He's probably going to be on this year's team. I'm not sure where. Probably more of a first baseman DH type than he is a second baseman, but this bat is for sure ready. We are trying to generate some bat speed. He has a little bit of potential here for the power. If we can get this bumped up to be even more, maybe get like a Juan Padilla type bump, get this into the 60s, he's cooking. So we're going to see if we can do that. He has adaptability, work ethic, and intelligence, which plays in our favor. And then Alfredo Medina. He is another high adaptability guy. We are trying to go for gap power on him because he already has 60 potential on the power. We want to see if we can get this gap power potential bumped up because I think he's an interesting player. But if he's only power and I and has no gap, I think I'd rather have a bit more gap. So we're going to try to see if we can get that. Then we have two pitchers, a strength and conditioning program for Juan Nazario. He is a right-handed pitcher we have down in AAA. Seriously good fastball, good mix here with some potentials. He's a fragile pitcher, though. He's only 22. He has no options used, no service time. So, we want this guy to be around for a long time in our bullpen, and bumping this fragility up to normal is in our best interest. So we threw him in the dev lab. And then the final guy here, endurance training for Jorge Lozano. This guy could be a stud starter if he gets the stamina up. If he gets up to 35, suddenly you get an 80-grade fastball with a good 3-pitch mix. This control can get up to 60. He's got good stuff. He's got green movement, lefty, side armor, throws 99. He's got good work ethic. He trains hard. If we can get this guy's stamina up, he's suddenly looking like a rotation piece for us this season. So that's what we're going for. Now, obviously, it is a very, very hard program, but we're confident. We're taking the swing here on Lozano. So those are the 8 guys we went with. I've also gone through here and set my strategy to be what we are going to be rocking with here. A bit aggressive on the stolen bases. We moved the base running aggressiveness up as much as we could. The rest of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. The pitching strategy, we did as much as we could. And then the substitutions also, we did as much as we could. But obviously, for pitchers especially, I like to go into every individual pitcher who at least I care about. And I go into their strategy and I like to override their strategy, lock their strategy, override this. And then I love to just this guy has bad control, so definitely don't want him doing that. And then I basically just do something like this for everyone, and then he's averaging like 87 pitches per game. He's got 55, so we'll probably throw him at like 95 pitch count. What just happened? 95 pitch count, please. Boom. So I'll do something like that for basically every pitcher who I care about. Basically anybody who I think is worth anything in my organization, I'll do this for them and override their current strategy because I just want them to be set up to succeed. All right, so an extremely rough overview of what I think our team could look like this upcoming season and what we could head into free agency here, and then just the offseason in general with trades and whatnot of what we could possibly look to add to our team. As far as the hitters go, I think that we have a lot of good first basemen, I feel like, in the organization. We have this Juan Ramirez guy who's the 78th prospect in baseball. He's the guy who tore up A-ball the past 2 seasons. He is way too good for that level. He should be in the big leagues. So he can play a little bit of left field, 55 in left field, 55 range. A bit of a Suzuki type in left field, I feel like. But this bat needs to play. So he's basically in left because Rojas can only play really left and right. So Rojas would be our right fielder. Our first baseman is Devon Lias, who is I guess not a prospect in baseball anymore. I could have sworn he was. Maybe he's not. But anyways, he's durable. He's got really good ratings. He's got a 60 potential, at least according to OSA. Tore up AA the past 2 seasons as well as with Ramirez. He can really only play first. I guess he can sort of play second, but not really. So he's going to be our first baseman. And then Ortega is our second baseman. That's obvious. Hartley is going to be our third baseman. That's obvious. Esprit, I don't think he's the most ideal shortstop. I do like he has a 70 range, at least according to OSA. Maybe my scout thinks that's less. Maybe my scout thinks this is more. Who knows? But right now, he's our best option to play shortstop, so he's in that spot right now. And then Duhan, I have as the DH because he just has a really good contact bat, good speed. I think he's a solid bat, and he can't play the defense at all. Whereas Bogliolo, Jesus Christ, I'm gonna screw up this name like 8 million times. But anyways, this guy obviously has some serious pop. It's basically between him and Duhan for that DH spot. I think both of them are probably going to be on the big league roster this season. But honestly, we might even do something. I mean, he can hit against both. This guy would be a waste to have as just a short side platoon. But we could do something where, or no, he's a righty too. Okay, never mind then. But yeah, maybe they'll mix ABs. Maybe they'll play like every third day as whoever the backup is. But I think both of those guys are good DH options. Boglio, midnight, he can play the corners decently well, so he's probably going to mix in some outfield as well as possibly some first base. But we need to find ourselves a legit center fielder. None of our current outfielders can actually play the outfield. I looked through all these guys. Some of them are listed at center. I moved them to a corner because they're not center fielders. We know about Ernesty Rojas. He's a really good corner, not a center fielder. Juan Ramirez, he's playing left field because that's just where we have to put him to play in the lineup. As far as the rest of these guys, Montenegro, this guy's a decent player. Going to swing and miss a ton. Has some good pop. Lefty hitter, but can play a really good corner, not a good center field. Then we have Valera. He has some good ratings. Swing and miss a ton. Good gap, power potential, eye. Can't play even really the corners. He's a DH first baseman. Definitely not a center fielder. Jake Cummins. He is a switch hitter, which we love. Decent bat profile, like a decent bench bat to have on the team, but he can really only play left field, barely play right field and first base. Definitely not a center fielder. Then there is also Vince Helm, who has a great mustache, but he also is not a center fielder. Very good corner outfielder, but not a center fielder. And he's another guy who they, for whatever reason, had in Double-A this year and put up a 7 WAR with a 167 WRC+. He's another guy who is definitely going to be in the mix for us for a major league spot this season, but not in center field. Alfredo Medina, we talked about this guy. Very good corner, not a center fielder. Then there is Reinhold Wilken, the German, decent corner first baseman, not a center fielder. So none of the guys, and we also went up and promoted all the guys who are currently on the 40-man just to see who's on the 40-man, who we want to move on from and whatnot. None of the guys on the 40-man are center fielders. That's an issue. Now, you might see Rule 5 eligible here, Luis Griego, one of our top prospects, who can play center field. He has a 70 range, but at least according to OSA, he only has a 60 in center field. We'd be rushing him to the big leagues here. He's not quite ready. We are going to put this guy on the 40-man just because we don't want to risk losing him. Even though teams tend not to take these guys that are like this far away from the big leagues, but I just don't want to risk it. So 32nd prospect in baseball. Maybe he's a center fielder for us at some point, but probably not right now. The center fielder in AAA right now is Jonathan Scheffler. Absolutely not a center fielder. He's from Don Bosco Prep, which is just sickening stuff. That's the one New Jersey school that I'm like, yeah, get it out of here. And then you may be asking yourself, what about Double-A? Well, with the best Double-A center fielder is this guy. Not a center fielder. How about Morales? Not a center fielder. Literally can't even play there. I don't know why he's listed there. Ismael Enoa, not a center fielder. So there's just no center fielders in this organization. It's crazy to me that they've managed to put up a ZR like this with no center fielder. So we need to figure that out. Center field is a huge, huge spot for us, and then catcher as well, because right now the only catchers on the 40-man roster are Salas, who we are not bringing back, and then Jeff Thurston, who if we do bring back, He's arbitration eligible for pretty cheap. We'll probably bring him back as a backup catcher, but that's as a backup catcher. This guy should never be your number one. He's not a number one. He's not built like that. He's not that guy. So Jeff Thurston, if he comes back, he's either like the third catcher if he clears waivers because he has no options, or he's the backup, but he's not the starter. So we need to find a starting catcher and a starting center fielder. It's a tall task, but even if we just get guys who are all defense at those positions, it's better than what we have right now. And then on the pitching side of things, right now our 1 through 5 staff would look like Wilson Morales, who we know about. He's the future of this team, essentially, in the rotation. Or not the future, he's the current. He's been their best pitcher for 3 years. Alfredo Machado, who has put up a bad season and like an okay season in the rotation. I think he could be a good starter. He has a 6 screwball, which is a very cool thing to have. He's a part of this team here. They got him from waivers? They claim him off waivers. Wow. Then Santiago Mendoza. He is a part of the rotation right now. Left-handed pitcher who they got from Tampa Bay on a trade. He's barely pitched in the major leagues. Dave Havens is put up back-to-back seasons. He was the guy who got really unlucky this season. And then it would be Nies van Esvald, who is another left-handed pitcher who has pitched with them for 1 season and was, like, not great. But those are the best starters we have available to us now. And then as far as these relievers, what these tags are for is, like, Montiel's going to be the closer. He's the closer for this team. That's probably not changing. And then this middle relief bunch are dudes who I think are going to be on the team no matter what. So, like, Lozano, or at least on the 40-man no matter what. So, like, Lozano, lefty, has a good fastball, good mix here. He's the guy we have in the dev lab trying to get his stamina up. The Korean guy, he's absolutely going to be on the team. He has still 2 options as well. He's making league minimum. There's no reason to get rid of this guy. Juan Nazario, he's also a guy who is making the league minimum, has 3 options. No reason to get rid of him. He's interesting. Then we get into a bit of a mix here where these so basically I view long relief and these emergency starting pitcher guys, these 2 guys, these are just placeholder names, but these 2 categories are, I think they're both the same talent-wise, but these guys are guys that have options and are flexible, but I view as like a tier below these guaranteed guys. So like Josh Littleton here, he's whatever. He could be a decent pitcher for us, but his question is, do we want to pay him 1.3 in arbitration? I think we probably will because it's whatever. Estrella, he is a guy who is making a league minimum and has an option, so he's like a second tier below those other guys, but I think he's going to make the team. Clevinger, also a tier below the other guys, but I think he's going to make the team. He has 3 options. It'd be stupid to just get rid of a guy with this many options who could give you some decent innings here and there. And then these guys are guys who I think are on the same level skill-wise as these long relief guys, but these guys are out of options, essentially. So Eddie Bolter here, I think he's pretty solid. He has no options, and he's eligible, so it's like, do we want to guarantee a roster spot to this guy? Maybe. Who knows? Josh Elder, another guy who could be decent, but do we want to guarantee a roster spot? Or this guy's signed. Okay, never mind. This guy will be on the team, making 2.9. So that was Elder. Yes, Josh Elder moves into that long relief spot. I just saw this number and I thought that was his arbitration number. No, he's signed to 2.9 for next year, so he'll be on the team. Then there is Pat Langfit, decent lefty, could give you some innings here and there. Was pretty good for them in very limited time after being claimed off waivers from Tampa Bay where he was not good, but no options. So, and he's projected to make 1.6 in arbitration, so probably not going to be giving him a deal, to be honest. Dave Bay, he is projected to make league minimum, but has no options, and he's definitely not a guy who would be like guaranteed a spot, so he might not be back, he might, who knows. And then Kazeda is the guy that we were just straight up not offering arbitration to because he wants $2.4 million and he's just bad. I mean, even if this guy was league minimum, I would not be interested in this guy because I just don't think he's good. Also, just scrolling through these Rule 5 eligible players to see if there's anybody interesting here. There are a couple of guys, which we'll get into a bit later on, but also when I was scrolling, I just happened to see Starlin Kaba is in this team's organization. He was in Double-A this year. I guess he had a stint in the KBO after he went to the major leagues, or was in the major leagues. If you remember, Starlin Kaba was on that 2032 team. He is a no, never mind. That was the year I think we got to the World Series and we lost, or we made a deep playoff run, but he was on that team. I thought he was decent, but we did not keep him around very long. Didn't really ever do anything in the major leagues. And I guess he bounced around the minors, then went to the KBO for 2 years, came back, or 3 years, came back, and now he's wrecked and just in Double-A for the Raleigh Oaks and barely played. So his career's over, he's wrecked. Obviously, we're not going to be bringing this guy back. I just thought it was funny that he was in the organization. Oh, and then as far as the arbitration hitters that we were talking about, I think it's pretty obvious for a couple of these guys now that we've looked at these this depth situation. So, like, first base, we just have so many guys. Like, Lias is going to start there probably. Ramirez is probably more so a first baseman. We're playing him in left field. We've got Ortega, who's got a good bat. He's 26. He's out of options. He's probably a guy who we're going to look to flip, honestly. He has some value. He's just not going to be on the team. He's not going to be on the roster. We don't want to just lose him in waivers, so we'll probably trade him for like some relievers or something. Alan Ricks is another guy who has no options. We'll probably try to trade him for something if we can. So we just have a bunch of first basemen. We've even got some guys down in the minors, too, if we look at these Rule 5 guys. So, like, Salazar is a bit far away, but he's Rule 5 eligible. We're not going to add him to the 40-man because I don't think they're going to take him. But then we've also got this Juan Ebersach guy. He's 25-year-old German-American in Double-A. He's got an interesting gap power, but the rest of the bat's intriguing enough to keep around, but probably not be on the 40-man roster. If he gets claimed in the Rule 5, he gets claimed, but I don't know. Maybe we add him because he looks like he can play some decent second base. Can he play No, he can't play the outfield, but I don't know. This guy's got a decent personality class, so maybe we keep this guy. But my point is that we have a lot of first basemen. We've got Midnight here, who's a corner outfield first baseman. We've got Duhan, who's a DH and ideally a first baseman if you get some time there. So when it comes to guys like Connor Sweetland here, who is a interesting bat profile with this really good speed and the gap power, we all know I'm in love with these guys. He's got a high leader, adaptability, work ethic. He's projected to make $3.4 million, which isn't the most, but he has one option. Okay, so maybe we will pay this guy. Maybe Sweetland will stick around as like a bench player. But the thing is, he's a first baseman. He can't play anywhere else. He's a first baseman DH bench player at this point in his career. So he is interesting as depth. If he had no options, I would be like, okay, we'll probably get rid of him. But I mean, $3.4 million for a AAA guy is definitely pushing it. But I mean, we've got money to spend. I highly doubt we're going to take a huge swing on anybody in free agency. So like spending $3.4 million on a guy who I think could be interesting is not something I'm like opposed to doing. But then the rest of these guys, like Figueroa, I think that we might be moving on from. I mean, he's been a good first baseman for them. He plays a good defense. He's given them triple-digit WRC pluses for 3 straight seasons, getting like 500, almost 600 ABs in some seasons. He can play you some corner outfield, too. 2.6. Figueroa, I think we're going to keep around. I think we're going to keep Figueroa around for at least one more season. So maybe not. I was trying to check in and be like, oh, these guys, I don't think we're going to bring them back. But now that I look more at them, I'm like, I think we will. I think we will bring them back for probably one season as just like depth. But yeah, I think they're valuable, especially Figueroa. He's been a productive player, so we'll keep him around. But then Reinhold, who we do have in the dev lab, he has no options. He's not going to make the team. So even though he has the adaptability, even though he's German, which is very cool as a baseball player, he's never hit anywhere he's been. I don't think we're going to keep him. So we're going to withdraw that offer. We're also going to take him out of the dev lab, and we're going to put in somebody else. So Boomerang here, we're going to remove, and we're going to add somebody else. And then some of these other depth guys that we have, like Jake Cummings, we think he's good, but is he going to have a spot on our team? And he has no options. So, like, I don't know if we want this guy to be our backup outfielder, or a backup outfielder that we have, and he just has no flexibility. So he might be also somebody we try to flip for some pitchers or just some other more controllable players. And I don't think I want to throw him in the dev lab here. Valera is a guy who has one option year, so he's a bit more intriguing to throw in the dev lab here. Maybe get this power up, perhaps. Vince Helm, who we think is interesting, has one option year. He's definitely more valuable. I don't like this fragility. I think his bat is interesting. I think he has no speed whatsoever, but he can play a really good corner. Montenegro is a 25-year-old left-handed hitter with no options. And it's like, do we think this guy is going to make our team? If we don't think he is, he's going to have to pass through waivers. So maybe we try to trade him for something as well. You know what? I think we're actually going to go with Figueroa. Figueroa has the really good personality class. He's got the adaptability, the work ethic, the intelligence. So we're going to throw him in the dev lab for I and see if we can get this I up. Maybe even get a potential boost for that as well. Make him a bit more valuable as a hitter. So Sergio Figueroa, plate discipline, and he is going to be the 8th guy in the dev lab instead of the German corner outfielder. I'm also realizing that I've never actually looked at the injured list here. We go to the home page, there's 3 guys listed here. I mean, this guy stinks. He's a right-handed pitcher who tore his UCL, and he's really never been great. Is he a former top prospect? Former 8th round pick for the White Sox. Yeah, he's probably not somebody we're looking to bring back anyways. Apparently he cleared waivers. We waived this guy? Yeah, I guess he's on waivers. Then they also have this guy on waivers. He's also somebody who I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's got no option years. We'll probably just get rid of this guy. But then the other 2 on the injured list is Mikhail Nolomes, who doesn't really... I don't know. He seems odd. He only has a 35 potential as a starter, but he's got a really good fastball splitter combo that he could have. He's coming off forearm inflammation. I'll have to see what my scat thinks of this guy, and if my scat thinks he could be like a decent reliever, we might keep him around, but if not, well, he's gone. And then Dylan Cruz, obviously, we are not bringing him back. He's been with this team for 1 season and didn't even play. So they signed him in the offseason, and he never even played for them. He, broke a bone in his elbow in March. Very end of March, and just his season was done. So I just went ahead and simmed one day just to get the offseason going, and we get all the reactions from the offers we sent out, and then we get our first dumb trade proposal, and it's from the Los Angeles Angels. They're trying to ship us Steve Hagge, who I guess they're trying to move on from here. The new GM of the Angels wants him gone, and they want us to give them this catcher who's like whatever, this first baseman who's like whatever, and now hold on a minute here. We need a catcher. He's projected to make 5.5. Are we interested in trading for Steve Hagge? The guy we just moved on from with the Angels? We upgraded from at the deadline? I mean, this is not a bad offer. He's only projected to make 5.5 in arbitration. He would obviously be an upgrade over Jeff Thurston. We obviously have a ton of money to spend. This is just going to be like a 1-year thing, probably. I doubt he's around for like multiple seasons. And even if we do trade for him, I would not be opposed to trading for him and then also still looking to see if we can get another good catcher and have like a 2 tandem catching thing. Because I don't think Thurston ideally is our backup. It wouldn't be the end of the world if he's our backup, but I would not be opposed to trading for Hagge and then also finding another catcher to pair with him, and then Thurston is just kind of like a guy we, if he goes through waivers, that's cool. If not, see ya. Like, let's see, does he have any sort of trade value? I mean, I probably shouldn't be doing this until we actually get a scout in so I can see people's ratings, but does Jeff Thurston have any sort of trade value out there on the market? He does. Not really, on it. Kind of. There are some minimum guys here, like Chris Risher, who wouldn't really play for us because we don't have an opening in a corner. This guy's overpaid. This guy's obviously overpaid. This guy is overpaid. He's a really good reliever, but I don't know if we want to add on that sort of contract for a reliever at that, especially with this team. Abraham Zamora is a league minimum guy, but he has no options and also is at first base, which we have all the overload at. McNally's kind of cheap, but he's wrecked. Kim has a good eye, but he's just a first baseman and has no options. So yeah, Thurston definitely has no trade value. So yeah, I think we're going to do this, honestly. I think we're going to trade for Steve Hagge. See if we can rejuvenate his career here in Raleigh. I mean, the Angels are like, hey man, you want your former catcher? I'm like, sure, we'll take him. We need a catcher. Why not? Steve Hagge, come on over. I mean, none of these guys are interesting. Like, Carranza's got, I mean, maybe not. Maybe not. Because I like Carranza's bat. I think this is an interesting bat for a catcher, but he doesn't have great defense. But he has the adaptability, work ethic, intelligence. So, for the second round of Dev Lab, we could throw this guy in to improve his catcher defense and to see if maybe he gets a boost to that. I think we're going to hang on to this guy. Yeah, no, I don't think we're going to trade for Hagge. I think we're going to stay, unless we can go, like, discuss trade. And I would imagine that that guy's the best guy they want, because Espinoza has a 40, O'Connor has a 35. What if we just submit that back to you? All right, so they come back and they're like, hey, we'd give you Steve Hagge for either Nesty Rojas, who we're obviously not trading, Figueroa, who I'm probably not going to trade, or Jake Cummings. I think we're going to give him up, honestly. He's 26, he's a switch hitter. I don't know if I want to give up on this trade, though. We might shop him and see what his trade value is. But I might not be opposed to this. Like, Cummings, he's making league minimum, though, and we're going to be adding $5 million for him. He just doesn't really have any spot on the roster to make the team. He's never hit in the major leagues at any portion of his career. Like, I guess he had this decent stint in 2038 as a backup, but overall, nothing really, anything that stands out. I do think at least what OSA thinks of him. Wait, do we have a head scout now? We do! We have a scout! All right. Chris Christopher has signed on as our scout. And if we just take a look at the player list so I have a filter here for different ranges. So 70 infield or 70 outfield range. This is literally every single player who includes minor leagues and free agents, not including international complex, who has a 70 outfield range or better. Obviously, we're not going to be able to trade for one of these guys. One of these 45 guys, though, a lot of these guys tend to be shitty, wrecked guys. Like Connor Griffin, I know for sure, is a wrecked veteran. Demarion Terrell is wrecked. No, he's not. He's fragile, but he's a free agent, so I don't know if we're going to trade for him. I think I'm going to add him to keep an eye, just to throw him on the wish list. Because I don't know if they'll re-sign him or not. Tronstein here. He's projected to make $5.1 million. He's a captain. He put up a 10 ZR in center for them. What was Kansas City this season? In the Southern Division. Okay, so they were a decent team. They were third place. They missed out in the playoffs by quite a bit in the division. And they were 5 games back in the wild card. So, I mean, they'd be a team that might move on from a guy like this. He's making maybe a bit too much money for them. We might be interested in Tronstein. I'll keep an eye on him as well. And then there's a couple prospects down here, like Yaikel Cooperman from the Rays. He is intriguing, for sure. Anglesi. Austin Anglesi, who we know about. He's a free agent, apparently. Yeah, I don't think we want to do that. And then we get down to like a 35 potential guy who's more of a corner, only has 60 in center. So it's really between, I think these three are the acquirable ones. So it's like expiring free agent Terrell. I think it's probably Tronstein and Cooperman, or maybe Cooperman and then Tronstein, as far as guys we want, like right now. But and the thing is, Tampa Bay already has. Okay, so this guy is their right fielder. No, he's their center fielder. So they already have a guy playing center field for them. So they don't particularly need Cooperman. So we might try to acquire Cooperman here. And then just out of curiosity, what would they think about Jake Cummings, who I think is decently valuable, but can't play defense? What would they think about Jake Cummings for Yaikel Cooperman? Just the immediate no way. It would take Mike Rubin, who's one of our top prospects, or Alfredo Medina, who is not a top prospect, but yeah, I don't know if I want to move on from him. So I offer them a different package of Montenegro and Alan Ricks as guys we're going to probably moving anyways, just to see what the value was. And their immediate no included even better players. So it's still Rubin, but then it's also Griego, who's a 65 potential. Or this guy, who is super far away, but seems like he could be good. Or it's Bednarchik here, who was their first-round pick in 2039 this past season. Probably not trying to give him up. Honestly, I mean, he's a first-round pick, but he doesn't really look that intriguing. I don't think this guy's that great. Like, this guy could be an okay-ish, like, bench bat, but he's never gonna play anywhere, really, for you. Like, he could play you, like, a decent second or third base, but he doesn't really have the true pop to be, like, a starter, or the BABIP, or the gap. He's, like, a decent slap hitter, who maybe hits you, like, 15, maybe 20 at the ceiling home runs, and is never really that great of a hitter. So, I don't think we really want this guy. So I would not be opposed to being like, hey, we'll give you Bednarchik, and you'll give us Yaikel Cooperman, who, what was he? He was a third-round pick. And I understand we don't really have the scouting accuracy on him, but he's got 70 range. He put up an 18.7 ZR and high A ball for them this season. He's on their 40-man as well. He's 22, about to be 23. We're going to offer this. We're going to offer that and see what they say. It wasn't an immediate no, so that's already an upgrade. All right, they like this. So they would just do that straight up. I think we're just going to do this. I think we're going to do Bednarchik straight up for Yaikel Cooperman. And that's going to be our first trade here as the Raleigh Oaks. And we're going to add this guy to our former Oaks list here and keep tabs on him. So Yaikel Cooperman coming to the organization. All right, folks, we're checking back in here for the award summary here. So the National League MVP, the league that we are now involved in, no longer a part of the American League. We are now with the Raleigh Oaks, obviously, who are in the National League. So, the National League MVP, Luis Arroyo of the Toronto Blue Jays of the Great Lakes Division. He put up a 6.5 WAR, 179 WRC+, led the league in WRC+, ribbies, average OBP, slugging, OPS. Pretty insane. And then you also have former Angels farmhand in Kane Archdeacon, who finished top 3 in that as well. On the American League side of things, the MVP was Tanner Moody of the Seattle Mariners. 7 WAR, led the league in WAR, WRC+, average OBP, OPS. Pretty solid season. Really good year for Lizard Moody of the Mariners. And then way down on the bottom of the list here, Espinoza and Tiziano both got a couple votes for the Angels. The National League Cy Young is a familiar face in Mike Hannibal of the Milwaukee Brewers. He kind of disappeared for a couple seasons, but he's now back to winning. Disappeared, he was still pitching very well, but he wasn't like league leaders. He's been a monster this whole time. Ever since 2032, his first full season in the big leagues, he's just been shoving for the Milwaukee Brewers, and they have him signed through 2041. He's going to be making a shit ton of money when he hits free agency. I mean, look at this guy. Look at this guy. While in the American League, the Cy Young winner was Jesus Ramirez of the Oakland A's, another player we are very familiar with. He has been dominating here for the A's for quite a long time, ever since his first full season in 2030, the first season of the Raleigh Oaks existence. This guy came in and was just a productive player ever since then. He's been like a Cy Young candidate ever since 2031, shoving every single season. Look at all these inning pitched leaders. I mean, just incredible. Led the league in ERA 4 times. And then you even have Mike Hoskins getting a couple votes here. 16 points for Mike Hoskins, who I don't think I ever actually mentioned that we extended him. I forget if I did or not, but we did extend him. This is not something the AI did. I did that towards the end of 2039. So that is something that I did because I felt like it made sense. It was a decent deal for a pitcher of his caliber. So Mike Hoskins is still a member of the Angels for quite a few seasons now. And then Ivan Wilson, the manager of the Los Angeles Angels, does get top manager of the year. I think that's his second. Yes, it's his second time winning it, 2037 and then 2039. He's won Manager of the Year. And then look at this. The American League Reliever of the Year is who else but Dan Brannick. Man, Dan Brannick gets Reliever of the Year. That's crazy. I didn't even think he was the best reliever on the team, but apparently he gets Reliever of the Year in the American League. So we leave our stamp there with a Dan Brannick award. All right, folks. We are here at the end of the offseason, and it is time to take a look at what the first season of the Raleigh Oaks with Robert Pollard at the helm is going to look like. So at the start of the offseason, we all know who he signed as coaches. I went over those at the start of the video here at the start of the offseason. We saw the Cooperman trade. We also saw who he signed as our third base coach, but we did not show the Reinhold Wilkin trade, at least I don't think. He is now on the Seattle Mariners here. We sent him. He had no options. He just did not have a spot on the team. So we were trying to just get guys who had options for him. And the Mariners basically just swapped us similar players. Chris Risher here is going to be in AAA for us to start the season. Left-handed hitter. We picked him up from Seattle. Decent corner outfield, or pretty good corner outfield glove. Good contact bat, average power. Decent little player to have. And this is his final option year, as we just used that. We also picked up a Japanese left-handed pitcher who was then claimed by he was claimed by Kansas City, and now he's on Cleveland. He was somebody who we thought we could use, but we have some much better lefties. So we do not actually have Takamura on our team this year. You'll also see that we claimed this other guy just because we thought we might be able to use him. We were not able to squeeze him onto our team, so we ended up having to waive him in the offseason as well. Now he's on Houston. Then we also made another trade. We sent Juan Ortega, who was one of the first baseman prospects, not really prospect, but 27-year-old, who was on our team. Didn't really have room for him. He had no options. Apparently, he must be on waivers right now. But we traded him to St. Louis, and they gave us a couple interesting controllable... Oh, also, Jorge Mesa is just a throw-in pitcher to make the deal work. A couple interesting corner outfield types. Amari Killings, who is a good bat, interesting bat to have, right-handed hitter, can play left and right field with a little bit of first base. And he just thought he was an interesting bat. He has a bunch of options, so he's now in our organization on the 40-man. And then the other player we picked up from them is Glenn Rokes. I'm sure it's pronounced some funky way because it's Dutch, but he's another weird thing. He's a righty bat, lefty throw. He's another corner outfield guy with some insane eye. This was 80 when I traded for it, but when I traded for it, I did not have him fully scouted. Now we do. Still very solid. He just kind of an interesting piece to have on the team here, and he has all of his option years as well. Then we went out and we extended the future of our team here. Edgar Ortega, he is the franchise. Edgar Ortega is absolutely what we are going to be building around here in Raleigh. As you can see from this profile, I mean, you got to be stupid to not understand why this guy is good. He is pretty damn good. So we extended him to a team-friendly deal here. through his age 33 season, that 33 season being a team option. And I mean, we're basically ripping this guy off. We've got him for single digits through his age 29 year, and then 30, 31, 32, and 33 are all 15.5 million. And if this guy performs like you think he's going to, we're ripping him off. We also went out and extended another key player, Wilson Morales here. We did not go as long-term with him because I have reservations about his control, how long that's really going to play as like a legit starter. But so far, through 3 seasons, he's been a legit guy. He's been pretty solid. He hasn't really had the best ERAs, but he's had a solid FIP minus all these years. And I just think he's a quality pitcher. He's not even 25 yet, so I thought it was an easy extension for him. We signed him through his age 28 season. Basically, we're giving him about what he wants through what he's projected to get in arbitration for these first 3 seasons, and then we're buying out 2 years of free agency, possibly only 1 depending on how he pitches in this first season. But we have at max 2 years of free agency bought out with these last 2 seasons through his age 28 year. Then we moved on to December with free agency, and we made a couple signings in free agency. First was Jeremy Osborne, the World Series champion with the Los Angeles Angels last year. He was the stopper for us, and if you remember, he was a really good starter with Cincinnati for a long time, and then when he went to Boston, they just didn't use him as a starter anymore, essentially. So I was like, hey, he was super cheap in free agency. You can see here we only got him to a 1.5 for 1 year. And then if he hits his vesting option of 150 innings pitched, then we get him for next season at only $2 million. And, you know, if he somehow manages to put together even a fraction of any of these years, he's a pretty valuable pitcher. Right now he's our 5th starter. We're going to see how that goes. Now this curveball does give me pause, you know, makes me a bit worried that he's not going to be able to be a great starter. But, you know, we're trying to try things out here. We're giving him a shot in that 5th starter role. If it doesn't work out, I will just happily put him into the bullpen. We also picked up a player in the Rule 5 draft here, Josh Parton from the Houston Astros. So in our division, we're taking this guy from. Super good fastball, 70 grade fastball, throws 96 to 98. Has some starter capability as well with this good stamina and this 3-pitch mix. Right now the splitter is a bit iffy, but that could improve. And he has some decent ratings, so I just thought he was somebody worth taking a flyer on here, and he's making our team out of camp here, and he's going to be a part of our bullpen. We also went out and signed a couple guys around the edges of the roster, but then we also signed who is going to be sharing the catching duties, Jaden Foskey here. He was with Oakland for a long time during their runs as like their backup catcher. He had 1 year where he was the starter with a 3 WAR. Had a couple of years with Boston the past 2 years. Apparently he was already with Raleigh in 2038. I didn't even see that. But we're bringing him back. He's here in Raleigh again. He is going to be sharing the catching duties. He's a captain. You know, obviously we don't have the greatest catchers, but I just felt like he was a decent player to pick up. So we went out and got him. And then we also picked up Phil Goodwin, who is an interesting starter/reliever player. Can give you some innings, has a really good fastball cutter mix with some good stamina. He also had an option, so we sent him down to AAA because he just did not make the cut to start the opening day roster, but I'm sure he will be on the team at some point this season. Then we also went out and signed a couple more bullpen arms, one of them being Alfredo Cornejo here. He is a left-handed pitcher. He has an 80 grade stuff potential with a really good 75 potential fastball and an 80 grade potential cutter. They're already 70 and 75 with 70 stuff. Now, obviously, he's a bit wild, but this guy is absolutely filthy. So we're going to be using him in the bullpen here, see how he does for us this first season. Then we also went and picked up Luis de Jong, who is another sort of doesn't know where the hell it's going, but he has nasty, nasty stuff. Fastball slider mix, throws super hard. Right-hander. He's in AAA. He has options. He'll be up and down if we need somebody. And then there was Jimmy Cahill. Jimmy Cahill's another nasty lefty. Bit of control issues, but big stuff. Big 2-pitch mix. Slider cutter going on here. 80 grade potential on the cutter. You're getting the theme here. We're going for a lot of swing and miss in this bullpen. See if we can get just some filthy, filthy guys in our bullpen. And then we also went out and got ourselves a veteran starter to add to our staff. Yuri Perez, folks, he's back. Well, I guess he's not back. He's now with the Raleigh Oaks on a 1-year deal. We gave him a 1-year deal. You know, if we make a surprise playoff run, we have Yuri Perez, a proven champion, a proven veteran pitcher, on our staff to help us get there. If we don't compete, he's on a 1-year deal, and I made sure that he does not have a no-trade clause, so we are able to flip him at the deadline if we don't compete. But as far as what our team looks like right now, the rotation 1 to 5, it's going to be Wilson Morales as our number 1. Then we have Yuri Perez. He's the number 2. And then it is a mix of Alfredo Machado, 28-year-old, who they claimed off Houston's who they claimed off waivers from Houston a bit ago. When was this? 2038. He's got an interesting pitch mix. He could be a quality pitcher. Now, obviously, we don't have the Angels staff. This is a much different team, but we're going to see if we can compete with this team. You know, get these Raleigh Oaks improving. Santiago Mendoza is our 4th pitcher. He has a really good fastball, decent stuff, or not 50 stuff, but like decent ratings. He's just kind of one of our best options. So he's in there, and then Jeremy Osborne is indeed our 5th starter. So that's the 1 to 5. And then in the bullpen, we're rocking a double-edged stopper here of Jorge Lozano, who is he did indeed get a stamina boost here this offseason. I thought about putting him in the rotation. He might still end up in the rotation, but for now, he's going to be, honestly, I'm looking at this, and I'm just like, he's probably a better starter than Mendoza is. So yeah, we're just going to flip that right now. We're just going to say Lozano is going to go to the rotation here. We don't want him having no pitch limit. We'll throw him on like a 90 pitch limit, I guess. Something like that. And he'll be our 4th starter now. Ratings are very similar. Not much went down, just as overall went down to a 45. But this stuff is still very similar. And now we got to figure out where Mendoza is going to be, because I don't think we want him to be a stopper. I wouldn't mind having Cornejo as a stopper, just to kind of get, you know, he doesn't have the greatest control. He doesn't have the greatest stuff. But I kind of wanted to see like what we could, the strikeout numbers we could get if we gave this guy like 100 innings out of the bullpen. Kind of tempted, or we could go with Esveld as like a former starter in that stopper role. I think we're going to go Cornejo, though. So Cornejo is going to go into the stopper role. So we still have that double-barreled lefty-righty action in the stopper role. And then Mendoza can get like a secondary stopper role, I guess. But we won't put him as used more often. We'll just have these guys as used more often. So yeah, the rest of the bullpen, Dave Havens, who was a starter for us last year, he is going to be in the stopper role along with Cornejo. Interesting ratings. Thought he was pretty suited for that role. Juan Nazario is another nasty reliever that we have. This guy was already in the organization, 22 years old, almost 23, getting his first taste of the big leagues here at a camp. Well, hopefully he can perform for us. Josh Parton, I mentioned he is from the Rule 5 draft from Houston. Then there is Santiago Mendoza, who we just talked about. Then Nies Van Esveld, lefty, who was in the rotation for them last season after spending the majority of his career with Minnesota. He's just an interesting lefty to have on the team. Josh Elder is somebody who they claimed off waivers from Cincinnati. He was signed through this season, so I was just like, hey, he had a good year for them last year. Might as well run it back, give him another shot in the bullpen. And then Jimmy Cahill, who we talked about, nasty lefty we picked up in free agency. Hopefully he can perform for us. Then we have some very interesting dynamics going on in the lineups. So we know that the catching, it's like every 4th day, it's going to be Foskey is the starter, who we talked about, and then Nelson Carranza is our backup. Sick mustache, really good personality class. Unfortunately, was not able to improve his catching ratings in the development lab, but he's going to get a chance playing some catcher here for us. We have some other options down in the minor leagues, so if this doesn't work out, we have no quarrels about sending guys up and down, trying some other things. But the rest of the team, honestly, I think that the rest of this team is pretty sick. Devon Lias is our first baseman, 24 years old. Not quite at his full potential yet, but we're hoping that unleashing him in the big leagues here, straight from high A, where he absolutely dominated last year, he's going to get a chance to be the everyday first baseman, see how he can do. And then at second base, it is Edgar Ortega, who we know about. We've talked about him plenty. Still only 24, almost 25. Third baseman, Jared Hartley. He was their best hitter last year. At least I think he was. Yes, he was their best hitter last year with a 3.9 WAR. Hopefully he can repeat that. He's hitting in the 3-hole. Then a shortstop is Duvall Esprit. He's got 70 range. He should be able to hold his own there. He was a triple-digit WRC plus guy for them last season, so we're just giving him that shot. But we will get into it a little bit here. We have some guys in the minor leagues that are like right on that cusp, and if guys don't perform, boom, we got guys ready in the minor leagues. So then left field, we're playing Juan Ramirez in left. Insane bat potential. He also tore up A-ball last year to the point where he should not be at any other level in the minor leagues, so we are just giving him a shot here in the big leagues because he is one of our best hitters. 23 years old, almost 24. Center field, Luis Griego, developed quite a bit in the offseason. You might have remembered that we were talking about him at the start of this video, and I think he had only like a 35 overall. Well, folks, he does not have a 35 overall anymore. He has developed quite a bit. He looks like he's going to be the other cornerstone piece here with Ortega. So if he comes out here and just dominates this first season, probably going to try to lock him up to a team-friendly deal for like 10 years. And then in right field, last year's left fielder, Nesty Rojas. He's a decent corner outfielder with some good speed, some good gap power, lefty hitter, former third-round pick of theirs. Last year was actually his first year in the big leagues, I just realized now. So he put up a really good year for them, and now he's getting the full run of a full season in right field for us. And then the DH is Chris Duhon, who also has some pretty sick ratings here. Another guy has not really any... he could play first base for you, but he hasn't played there yet. I tried to play him there in spring training, but for whatever reason, he just didn't. But yeah, he's our starting DH. Self-explanatory. He's one of our best hitters, so he's getting the shot straight from A-ball up to the big leagues. We have a very, very young team, but it is a very, very high potential team. And then the bench pieces are Carranza is the rotating catcher, Sergio Figueroa, who has been with this team for 3 straight seasons, putting up solid WRC pluses for them, being a solid hitter. Now he's going to be in a bench role for us. But, if somebody struggles, we've got this guy just hanging around on the bench, ready to go. And then we have Eric Price, who we just have signed long-term. He's the most expensive guy on the team, except for Yuri Perez. The most expensive guy on the team from the previous regime, I should say. We have him for 2 more seasons, this season and next, at $8.2 million. He's a bench piece. He can play a really good infield, so, he's mainly a defender at this point, but definitely somebody who's at least valuable in that aspect. And then Cooperman, Yakael Cooperman, is going to be our backup center fielder. I just realized that he's also 6'7". We have a lot of really tall guys on this team. From Sheboygan Falls, lefty hitter. He's just the best center field backup option we have for Griego. So Cooperman getting the shot here. Really good speed profile. He's also the secondary backup corner outfielder, pinch runner as well. And that's what we're going to be rocking with here heading into 2040. So just taking a look here at the preseason predictions. The Montreal Expos are projected to win the Metro Division. All these teams are just going to beat up on each other, apparently. Expos with 83 wins, and then the Phillies all the way down here in last place with 79 wins. That is a tight division. And then in the Pacific, you've got the Dodgers and the Mariners projected to win 90 wins. And then the A's, Giants, Rockies, and then the Angels, they think they're going to fall off here. What is going on here? Every year, they never respected us in top hitters or top pitchers, and then I leave, and now it's like, oh, Chris Aquino is going to be one of the best hitters in baseball. Oh, Ernesto Pimentel is going to be one of the best pitchers. Oh, so is Kurt House. I mean, those guys were pitching well when I was there. What's the deal? And now, our new league, the National League, in the Great Lakes Division, the Blue Jays are projected to win that with the Guardians, Cubs, Tigers, Reds, and Brewers all projected for 80 wins, 80-plus wins. And then the Raleigh Oaks, folks. I'm just seeing this for the first time. We are predicted to win 91 games. Simply just hired Robert Pollard, and he's got your team cooking. Now, obviously, the previous regime has these has these prospects already in place. Bit of a Heim Bloom situation here going on there, but 91 wins. I would be ecstatic if we won 91 games. I don't really think we're going to compete against the Braves because they are an extremely good team. The Astros are an extremely good team. The Marlins are always really good. The Royals looks like they're starting to get scrappy. The Rays have struggled a bit. The Cardinals have struggled a bit. And then the Rangers are usually pretty decent too. So definitely a tough division. We'll see how it pans out. And then none of our guys are getting respect here. They think we're going to win 90 games, but none of our guys are getting respect in the top hitters or top pitchers. You'll change your mind. You'll change your mind, OTP. You'll see what the Raleigh Oaks are cooking up. Oh, and before we wrap things up here, I forgot to mention the programs. So, the first set of programs are the most successful set of programs I have ever ran in this game. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that we have the player development maxed out for this season, or if we just got really lucky, or maybe it's a combination of both. But we had at least successful in every single one of the first rounds. So Wilson Morales did improve his control a bit, but unfortunately it's still 45 because I guess he didn't actually have potential there, unlike OSA where it says he does. But apparently it still did improve by less than 5. And then the Korean pitcher who we wanted to add a pitch, he's in AAA for us to start the season, but he did add a fastball. It's not a very fast fastball or a good one, but he did add a pitch. So I guess I can't be too mad that he did an extremely hard program and succeeded. Edgar Ortega, he did indeed improve his avoid K rating. As you can see, he looks to be insane. And then Chris Duhon, current power rating improves by 10. Pretty insane. Chris Duhon looking like he's going to be primed for a breakout season here in his rookie year. I'm thinking, my preseason prediction is that the NL Rookie of the Year is going to be entirely Raleigh Oaks players. And then Alfredo Medina, who is another guy that we have, who also has a bright future, but currently is not on the roster. He improved his potential gap and his current gap by 5. 60 potential here. He's starting the year in AAA. I mean, look at this guy. This is just another guy that we have in the system ready to go at some point when we can unleash this guy. And then we have Juan Nazario. He improved his strength and conditioning, so he now no longer is a fragile pitcher. Now he's normal. And then Jorge Lozano, like I mentioned, did improve his stamina. That's why his stamina is now up to 35. That's why he's getting the chance in that starting rotation. Then Sergio Figueroa did indeed prove his plate discipline. As you can see, it's now a 50. Pretty decent bench player for us. And then the second set was a bit of a mixed bag. So Chris Duhon, we tried to improve his second base defense. He did not do that. Jake Cummings, who is in AAA for us. Well, he's actually on waivers because we had to DFA him because he just has so many guys. But there are a shit ton of guys on waivers. If he gets claimed, whatever. But he did indeed improve some of his left field. Not something drastic, but a decent amount. And then Griego, we tried to improve his center just to get it extra good. Unfortunately, he did not do that. Amari Killings improved his left field slightly. He's down in AAA to start the season. And then Luis Bogliolo. Midnights. Mr. Midnight here. That's his nickname. He's starting the year in AAA, but he did improve his left field defense quite a bit. Got the arm up and the range up by 5. You can see that. Now they're both 55. They were 50. And then Edgar Ortega did improve his second base. His arm up by 5, the rest of it up by less than 5. He's got that 70 grade second base. He was already a really good defender there. He put up a 4.8 ZR in only 86 games there last season. So he's primed to be putting up some gold glove numbers at second base with this bat. Connor Sweetland, we tried to improve, or we tried to make him learn a new position. Unfortunately, he was not able to do that. And then also Nelson Carranza, we tried to improve his defense. He did not improve the defense at catcher. But we are geared up and ready to go here for 2040.